What if Glough succeeded in igniting a war between gnomes and humans? Today we'll be exploring this exact scenario. Now let's get into some lore. Upon speaking with King Nardode of the Grand Tree, we are informed that the tree is in dire health and are tasked with investigating the cause. First, we retrieve a sample of bark to take to Hazelmere, an expert on the matter. Hazelmere inspects the bark and hands us a note. After arriving back at the gnome stronghold, the note reveals that magical Draconia rocks were given to a human who possessed the king's seal. These magical rocks killed the tree. Next, we must inform Glough, the head tree guardian, to which Glough informs us that a human has been arrested for the crime. The investigation would continue with us interrogating Charlie, who spills the beans on Glough, the true culprit. We relay this information to King Nardode, but to no avail, and mobilization of the gnome army begins. In this scenario, further investigation and subsequent accusations would push King Nardode to banishing us from the lands for our own protection, as he does not wish to involve us in this war. Or the alternate scenario in which further investigations lead us to confronting Glough himself, and in this timeline the level 172 Black Demon that is summoned by Glough kills us and the mobilization of the gnome army again continues. With preparations for war now underway, I think it's appropriate to establish a timeline of action. According to Glough, the Draconia rocks will kill the Grand Tree in only a matter of 3 weeks, and in 10 weeks, the resulting lumber will be converted into 30 battleships. Historically, most pirate ships were fairly small, boasting a handful of cannons and crews of around 50. But due to the small stature of the gnome race, I think we can safely assume that the gnome armada is anywhere between 1,500 and 13,000 gnomes strong. The gnome army is mostly proficient in either ranged or melee attacks. Choice of weaponry includes bows, swords and shields, as well as alternative melee weapons such as halberds. Gnomes are often regarded as more intelligent than most other races, but despite their usually peaceful nature, they are well trained militarily, capable of overwhelming most armies through sheer numbers. They mount prehistoric terror birds and battle tortoises in conflict to make up for their small size. And even civilians carry bows, with a variety of other gnomes carrying metal weaponry in combat. Gnomes are perhaps the most technologically advanced race, rivaled only by the dwarves. One of the most notable inventions is the gnome glider, an aerial transport system used both in combat and peace. Other technological innovations include their ballistic military devices, such as powerful heavy-duty crossbows or catapults. Further inventions like the parachute and their knowledge of elven crystal equipment help to crush their opponents in battle. But the extent of the gnome forces doesn't end there. Powerful mages like Glough the Untrusted, whose illusion magic successfully thwarted a goblin invasion. Various lesser mages, such as the ones located atop battle tortoises, help add an extra angle of attack when it comes to war. At this point, I feel that it's appropriate to mention that not every gnome would join in the fight against humans. Notable pacifists include Captain Erdo, a gnome pilot stationed at the top of the Grand Tree. Sadly, we're unable to make any accurate estimations on this number, though it is presumed that a sizable chunk of gnome population would not engage. There are 3 main points of attack that the gnome army would engage from: the gnome stronghold, Tree Gnome Village, and the shipyard located east of Karamja. So starting from points of attacks, I feel like the shipyard would be a good starting point. Here, I don't believe they would go to the Caridian Desert or anywhere around here because this just plainly doesn't seem like a good territory to invade as a gnome. I mean, they're tree people, this is a fucking desert. I'm not too sure how fruitful it would be. I'm sure the Caridian Desert is very rich in gold, I mean, because as deserts are, though I don't know how useful this would be from a military aspect. With Glough ignoring the Caridian Desert, that leaves 2 areas of attack: the Lumbridge Swamps and the Gulf of Port Sarim. Glough being the mastermind he is, I don't believe he would initially attack Lumbridge. The reasons being that the path of attack is burdened with narrow rivers and choke points that simply wouldn't allow for such large vessels to continue, making a castle siege unlikely. Furthermore, if smaller row vessels were taken past these choke points, this would only sandwich their forces between 2 armies, the Lumbridge army and Al-Kharid. Lastly, similar to the Caridian Deserts, the Lumbridge Swamp acts as a natural barrier against the invasion, buying crucial time to prepare. That's why the Gulf of Port Sarim would be attacked first. The Wizard's Tower in Draenor Village would swiftly be destroyed by the surprise cannon barrage of 30 battleships. If coordinated well enough, this would eliminate the threat of the Wise Old Man, as he will be unable to protect against such an assassination. Port Sarim would be left virtually untouched, as the port and merchant vessels are vital to the invasion, only sacrificing a negligent amount of gnomes in the process. Remington would fall shortly after the ground invasion has begun, again with minimal opposition. Falador would act as the first real opposition against the 1,500 gnome battalion. I think Glough sends the gnome army directly north through the southern entrance, slaughtering the few guards that would be there. East Falador would quickly fall and the northern guards begin to respond, putting a fight up, but ultimately leaving a small stronghold, the White Knight's Castle. Due to its defenses, this would not fall until later in the invasion when catapults are brought over via the captured merchant vessels, allowing time for information regarding the invasion to reach all of Misthalin and Asgarnia. Days would pass by, and both the human and gnome armies would begin to prepare. Meanwhile, in Kandarin, the main attack forces would begin to mobilize. A full assault on the Khazard army north of Tree Gnome Village would ensue. The use of catapults, ballistic crossbows, and gnome gliders would prove effective at stalemating the army. Though this stalemate would not last for long, as a massive wave of reinforcements would soon join the mix. The bulk of the Gnome Empire pushes south directly through the plague city of West Ardoin. Mild opposition is met at the walls of the city, but capture is imminent. Even though East and West Ardoin are not on friendly terms, panic within Kandarin would continue, as the gnomes have never escalated anything this far. The Battle of Khazard swiftly ends as reinforcements from the north sandwich the small army, and not long after, Port Khazard is taken as gnome territory. At the same time, the forces of Yanil would also ready their army in preparation of a gnomish invasion. Luckily for Yanil, the Mages Guild is located in the heart of the city, acting as a major source of defense. Furthermore, the Watchtower, a magical machine originally intended to protect against ogres of the south, would be put into standby to use against the gnomes if need be. Some time passes, and the invasion continues with powerful mages specializing in illusion magic being sent south into Yanil. These mirages would prove to be ineffective against the magic of the Watchtower, and Yanilian guards and mages of the Wizard Guild flood north to meet the gnome army. A battle resulting in major casualties on both sides takes place, and soon enough a regroup to the north would quickly be called. The city Yanil is damaged and suffers great losses, but nonetheless, victory was shown. Meanwhile, the next city that stands in the way of Glough's plan is East Ardoin, a powerhouse in military capabilities. Low-level guards at the entrances of the city will act as the first line of defense. The Knights of Ardoin, accompanied by vicious canine units, would assist the front line of the battlefield, causing a hard stalemate at the south entrance of Ardoin. This stalemate would soon be broken as a volley of giant ballistic crossbow arrows and catapult debris rains down on human forces. Heroes and paladins that typically roam and defend the town center would assort themselves into formidable kill squads that would be tasked with infiltrating the backlines of the gnome army, similar to General Khazard's tactics during his own battle with Tree Gnome Village. The gnome army might employ similar tactics in which gnome gliders and paratroopers are deployed into the heart of Ardoin, causing chaos and splitting the castle's forces. Not long after, guards from Seer's village as well as Camelot's very own Knights of the Round Table would arrive, providing much needed reinforcements and thus snuffing out the paratrooper invasion. This unexpected reinforcements will make Glough question if his invasion can be successful. The longer the battle lasts, the longer the second half of his army, located in Falador, has to wait. As the kill squads wreak havoc amongst the backline of Glough's main forces, the rest of Camelot and Ardoin's army would continue to push back the gnomes. Finally, upon finding out that the Yanilian campaign was unsuccessful, Glough would budge and call for a full army retreat, as he realizes that they are unable to regroup with their eastern gnome brethren. Both gnome armies, located in Kandarin and Misthalin, are swiftly prompted to return home and hide underground as they did during the God Wars. Better luck next time, Glough. I feel like this video is going to be either really hit or miss, but I had fun making it. So if you enjoyed it, do let me know down below. Drop a sub. Thank you.